I'm Sam Sorbo. Up next on the Sam Sorbo Show, Dr. Cordie Williams, Megaphone Marine, small business owner and now candidate for the U.S. Senate seat that was previously held by Kamala Harris. He's the guy you remember who talked the riot police into reconsidering simply following orders versus following the convictions of the oaths they took to protect and serve. Stay tuned. You're going to love this. Heard me talk about Mike Lindell, who I adore. You know, he's the inventor of My Pillow, and how that pillow has given me a good night's sleep that I need. In fact, I never knew how good I could sleep before I had My Pillow. Mike continues to roll out new offers on his products, and the latest one is on his towel sets. Towels aren't something you think about often. I never knew what I was missing until I tried the towels just last year. Now, you have all helped build My Pillow into the incredible company that it is today, and you've trusted Mike Lindell to give you a great night's sleep. Mike's now changing the game with his 6-piece towel set. The set's made with USA cotton, making it extremely absorbent, and yet still providing that soft feel you look for in a towel. The set comes with 2 bath, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths, typically retailing for $109.99. But for a limited time, you can get this set for the low price of $39.99. And that's using promo code SAMSORBO. So remember, all My Pillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. You just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener specials to get this insanely low price of $39.99 on the towel set. You'll find deep discounts on other My Pillow products as well. So enter promo code SAMSORBO, or you can call 800-625-5983. That's 800-625-5983 for these great radio specials. Hi, this is Sam Sorbo. I want to invite you all to join me at the Playbook for Home Learning Conference put on by Underground Education. There's a new community that started online called the Underground Education Community. You can find it by going to samsorbo.com. You can also find all the information about the conference, about how to approach education with your kids. Times are hard for parents right now. There's a lot going on in the schools that we don't like. But I'll tell you something, home learning is easier than you ever thought it could be and more fun than you ever imagined. So join me at the Your Playbook for Home Learning Conference this June 24-25 in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And we're going to have a great time. Go to samsorbo.com for more information on everything. I'll see you there. Welcome to the Sam Sorbo Show. My guest now is Dr. Cordie Williams. He's a Megaphone Marine. He's a small business owner, and now he's a candidate for the U.S. Senate for the seat previously held by none other than Kamala Harris. And you might remember him as the guy who talked the riot police into reconsidering simply following orders versus following the convictions of the oath that they took to serve and protect. So welcome to the show, Dr. Cordie Williams.
Well, thanks for having me, Sam. Yeah, it's been a very interesting road from that day. We're actually back in Sacramento right now. We've been on a 7-day bus tour, and living out of a bus in a hotel is great, but it's also not great after the first couple of days. But met a lot of incredible people, and we're back up here again. And we were actually at this site where that video got about 21 million views, and very nostalgic, probably 4 or 5 days before we find out if I'm the next U.S. Senator or not.
Yeah, so we got the count is on Tuesday, but they've been counting votes for a while, you said, right?
Yeah, well, and I misspoke there. They've had ballots out for probably 3 weeks. The polls opened on the 28th, and what we're telling people to do is fill their ballot in for this primary and then take it in and submit it in person, just with all the we could say voting irregularities or just outright fraud of 2020, right? Yeah, sure. They always like to say on the other side, voting irregularities. No, it was fraud. It was fraud. But
and what do you how are you feeling? What do you think your chances are?
It's a jungle primary, so it's the top 2 voter getters. There's 22 in the race. It started out with 11. So in a jungle primary, a lot of the viewers might not be familiar with this, but it's the top 2 spots. So typically with somebody like Padilla, we expect Padilla to take that first spot, but that second spot we believe is mine. That's why I entered it, because we feel like for the first time in 20 years, this seat is really exposed and has the opportunity for a constitutionalist and a Republican and a conservative like me to step in. The polls look good that we did. We did an internal poll, probably about 1,000 recipients. We did this probably about 2 months ago now. It showed me at 21%, between 19 and 21%. Padilla was at 39, so he would have gotten that first spot, but the rest of the field was just under 10%. We've out fundraised everybody. We've got some huge endorsements, and we've been making waves all over California. So we'll see what God does.
Well, I'm pulling for you. I thought that when I first saw that video of you talking to the police all in riot gear at the demonstration in Sacramento, I was, and so were, I think, millions and millions of other people deeply moved just by the veracity of your words. You need to consider, are you just going to follow orders, or are you going to behave like a human being? And I think you even said, preserve your soul or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and my language was definitely off color that day, but it was such a time that day where that was necessary. But yeah, I just really felt compelled to tell him, I'd rather lose my job than lose my soul. And it's like, there's this opportunity in history that you could tell your kids and your kids about, where you stood on a wall and you said, you know what, I'm standing for the Constitution, and, I'm standing for my creator. And those gentlemen that day, they chose to stand for Gavin Newsom, of all people. That just seems crazy even saying that, but because he's such a slime ball. But since then, it's been a long time, and certainly a lot of people have seen that video, and I'm honored to be on the show because you and your husband have done so much for this country.
Oh, thank you for saying that. We're studying some C.S. Lewis essays that he's written, and the last one that we actually brought up last night is called The Inner Ring, and it talks about this sort of slippery slope that happens when you want to be included, and so that is really sort of the worst seduction, that you'll do what's required just to be included. And in a sense, your appealing to your appeal to the police in the riot gear was that sense of belonging. Like, yeah, you're a police officer and you follow orders, and you're a Marine, so you know what that is, right? But at a certain point, you have to understand what your convictions are, and if you're willing to compromise them, because once you compromise your convictions, then the devil has you. Then you it's harder to live down, and it's much easier to compromise them again and again. And it's harder to walk it back and say, no, I'm going to be a good person, and I know the difference between good and evil. And I think this is a watershed moment, in a sense, in the United States, because we're all being confronted every day with these very, little decisions that we have to make. But you took a stand that I think really resonated with people, that, yeah, you know what, take a step back, look at the situation and assess, who do you want to be in that moment, right?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that for the first time in certainly my life, and I'm 42 and I have 2 young boys under the age of 5, we're kind of facing this 1774 opportunity, where it's like, for the first time in certainly my generation, like, we're having to almost rebel, if you will, and just be like, hey, we used to think government was great. We used to be okay with what the government said, but now we're seeing holes in the story. And if we look back over history, there's been holes in the story for a long time.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like
like
gaping.
even well, yeah. Well, no, I was just, like, even I bring this up all the time on stage, not to be, weird, but like, the date to find out what really happened to John F. Kennedy has gotten pushed back for 50 years. And so in the wake of 2 years of COVID, you're kind of like, man, so there's this bullet that hit 10 bony points and then came out and the bullet was perfect. That's weird. And now they keep delaying on like releasing this stuff and all that, right? So it just kind of makes you wonder. And I think, yeah, we have to start questioning and asking questions and standing up for what we believe in fundamentally.
Yeah, I mean, moreover, what we just went through and the destruction of our economy, and now the government blaming it on Putin, who had nothing to do with it for the past 2 years, but all of a sudden there's this war in Ukraine. And so they've got a scapegoat, and half the population is buying it. Like half the population is like, yeah, I guess that Putin, boy, that's why gas prices are so high. No, doofus, it's because we shut down the pipeline and shut down the economy, and now we're paying for it, and we're going to pay for it for a while. So, so your platform, you obviously Second Amendment, you know, all of the staunch conservative leanings. You're also school choice, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What does
Yes,
that mean?
ma'am.
What does that mean to you?
Well, you know, I think in the wake of, you know, I've always been a homeschool type of guy. And, you know, probably because I'm a chiropractor. So, you know, we've always been of the belief that, you know, we were never going to vaccinate our kids. And I think that's, you know, a personal choice that your family makes. We saw the research, we saw the data, you know, I'm friends with people like Del Bigtree, and, you know, I just kind of knew from the get go, you know, these foreign substances that we're injecting into our bloodstream. You know, if you want to do that, great. Okay, good for you, but just don't tell me I have to. And so, you know, related to school choice, it was a simple one for us. We were always going to homeschool. But I think in the wake of the last 3 to 6 years, and really this Cleon Skousen type Marxist agenda that he wrote about in The Naked Communist has become ever more present. That you know, you could see an increase of parents saying, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want my kids learning to hate America. And so, you know, in California, we're paying in public schools $11,000 to $25,000 per kid. And not to say there aren't some good public schools and counties that are flourishing, but when you look at certain, you know, when you look at the board of eds, well, and this is a touchy subject because some of my mama bears and teachers out there, they're like, Dr. Williams, we want to have the choice to go. I'm like, okay, but are you sure you want to do that? Because it's going to take a long time to repeal and recall and replace all these different board of ed supervisors or people that are on these educational boards that have basically been strategically put there because they have a Marxist ideology. And so I think that whether it's charter schools or homeschools, we should be given the choice, because if we could teach them about Jesus, in my opinion, and we could teach them how to love red, white, and blue ideologies, I mean, wow, we could create an army of people to go against this new revolution of socialism that's out there.
Yeah, and teach them that life has meaning and they have value, which is something that they're not taught in schools. Unfortunately, I think that basically the entire school paradigm is detrimental. And so I now say that we are all school injured, all of us, because even the way we think about education is wrong, because we only think about education the way we were taught to think about it in school, and they're wrong. And you know that they're wrong because of what they're trying to teach children today in terms of gender ideology and changing their gender, having sex when they're young, all kinds of, and by the way, these are all perversions that they're forcing on our kids. I don't know if you saw recently, they had 135 teachers and teachers' aides having been arrested so far this year. That's like one every day, for sex-related crimes, child sex-related crimes, including rape, inside the schools. But by the way, our schools are safe. No, they're not. They're not safe for your kids.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing that certainly more parents need to know about. I didn't know those stats and those figures, and I feel ignorant not knowing. But that's a
Fox
really, really
News.
good point. Wow, that's a really good point that you bring up. I mean, I think that safety is number one. That's why I'm a huge advocate. You know, in the wake of Uvalde and everything going on, and it's interesting timing right around the midterms that you're starting to see more of these shootings. I find that really odd. I think that we need to train these teachers. I think they all need to be Second Amendment trained. I think having some type of lockbox, maybe it's a fingerprint match with the teacher that's trained. There's one gun in an area where kids can't reach it. I think to your point, I didn't know about that point. Obviously the sexual, just horrific things that are happening, but these school shootings, right? If we could end both, and to your point, we could end both by just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to take time off of work. I'm going to bring my child to my home. I'm going to teach my child the narratives and views that I have, what God I want them to worship, these godly values, these American principles. Certainly, we have great church academies, but we're seeing pop up everywhere. In San Diego, there's a church called Awaken, and Awaken Church literally has a program that from kindergarten all the way to college, like you can get a bachelor's degree in these different programs. And I think it's great because, I just want my kids to have the freedom to be raised up the way we were, Sam, loving America, loving God if we choose to, right? And just these values that we're missing, certainly in blue states like California.
Well, and you have a lovely wife who supports you in the endeavor that you've undertaken. It can't be easy running for Senate. I often have first-time candidates on the show just to talk to them about the decision to do that, because it's very much the American way, but also it's very daunting. What was the final catalyst where you said, I think that I have a chance to win this seat and I can make a difference?
Well, I just think if we all don't level up, and I'm sure you've seen it, there are people in this state that I know that have 7, 8 zeros in their bank account, and they're choosing to move out of the state. I'm a middle class guy, but I look around and I think about the souls that are 6 feet under, the names on the tombstones at Arlington, the names on the Vietnam Memorial. I think about the fact that I'm a third generation veteran. I've got, basically a grandfather or an uncle that's been in the last 4 or 5 major wars or conflicts that we've had. And that certainly went into it, but also, I felt the feeling of helplessness in March of 2020. And I felt like the ceiling and the roof of what I thought this world was and what this nation was kind of crumbling and caving in. And I think that if we all don't level up and give a lot more and become even more hyper vigilant every day and get outside and taking our kids to soccer practice and baking cupcakes and trying to make it seem like it's pre-March 2020, we're all going to be standing in a different order in the same bread line. And so what are you defining as March 2020? What was that for you? Yeah, well, March 2020 was the day that, for the first time we saw Scarf Lady poke her head out from behind the podium, and then this rodent-like figure who looks like a ferret named Anthony Fauci. And then we were led to believe that, facial diapers and all of this in plexiglass was the difference between living and dying, and sitting and standing, all the nonsense they tried to tell us, right? Because they were just going to think that we were stupid. That was really the start of the overt press to take away our freedoms. It was going on with the BLM riots. It was going on really the last 6 years. I think it even became more overt when Donald J. Trump came down the escalator, because he really started to expose the fake news. But you saw even more, even a more push where they just kind of said, read between the lines. We don't care. We're going to do whatever we want. What are you going to do about it? That's right. And people stopped asking questions. Nobody was asking any questions. There was no pushback. It was just this monolithic movement toward the lockdowns, and all of the things that went along with that. And it was a very sad thing to witness. And I think you're right. I think there's been a call to arms. I'm hoping that we see more of it. And I really thank you so much for your service, and also for this this monumental task that you've undertaken. I wish you a lot of luck on Tuesday. And your kids are how old? 5 and 3. So my mornings are like Flippy and Paw Patrol and Baby Poop and monster trucks, right? It's your kids, I think right now.
That's awesome.
About, Yeah, they're talking about poop and genitalia basically all the time, right? That's kind of the conversation
They're
most of the
boys.
times. Yeah, they're boys, right? That's the way it is. So,
Well, I'm sure you're too busy, but I wish you could come to my Playbook for Home Learning conference because we don't think properly about education, and the parents who think that they can't do it just don't understand what actual education is, and they're looking to school their children. And the problem that we face in the country today, the reason that March 2020 happened is because we've all been schooled and not educated. An educated population would say, what now? Why are you telling me to do this? What's your motivation to tell me to do this? Why do I have to wear a dirty cloth on my face? And by the way, the journal, The Lancet, just came out with a study that they did whereby they proved that the cloth masks actually cause more death from COVID. So if you are infected with COVID and you wear a mask, you're more likely to die from COVID. Because, oh my goodness, who knew that the body's exhalation process was actually the body trying to get rid of toxins, and by keeping the toxins on your face, it's not good for you.
Swallowing your toxic CO2, right? Like we shouldn't do that, right? Crazy.
Right. And it's crazy because this is brought to you by the same people who say CO2 is a poison.
Yeah, right. The hypocrisy, right? It's like my body, my choice, but only sometimes, right? That whole deal, right? Only when I say so, right? Like, yeah. It's crazy.
It's more like your body, my choice.
Exactly.
All right. Dr. Cordie Williams, thank you so much for joining me. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. Where can people go to support you?
Yes, ma'am. It's Cordie for Senate, CORDIE number 4senate.com. That's Cordie for Senate. We're in a big push the next 5 days. You know, $10,000 allows us to send out another 500,000 text messages. The max donation is $5,800. And Sam, it's an honor. God bless you. I'd love to get some information on your conference. Absolutely.
Okay, I'll get that to you. Thanks so much for coming on the program. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. Go and support Cordie for Senate. It's cordieforsenate.com, and get involved. Get in the game, guys. We need more players. All right. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Sam Sorbo Show.